Are you wondering why I've turned into an abstract artist? Me too. That's why I'm not. Well, it might look like an abstract art piece that I'm creating here, but this was done from a live model during the Utah Tech open drawing session. You can see here that I started off with the shadow shapes because I want to look at the abstraction of those shadow shapes, and then I painted in the light shapes. After you get the shadow and the light shapes, it's basically working on edge quality. How soft is the edge? How hard is the edge? Where are the color changes that are occurring into it? But if you just establish the light shapes and the shadow shapes, you get good readability right out of the gate, which I think is kind of important, especially if you want to be a quick painter. If you're not a very quick painter, you might want to try this out and see if it can work out for you. But I wouldn't just try it once. I would do it a couple of times. As you can see here, when I started off with that shadow shape, it was pretty cool. Then I went back in and painted in warmer shadow shapes because there was reflected light coming off of the legs on the bottom of the breast or on the abdomen in the shadow, even between the legs. There's a lot of light that bounces there and it tends to warm it up. So I thought I would change the hue of that shadow shape by making it warmer. The breasts are also cooler in tone, so that's why I added some blue on there to compensate for the orange that was on the breasts and make it look a little bit more natural. Then I also cooled down the shadows of the breasts and went down to the arms and the abdomen, changed some of those tones. Now, you might be looking at this painting and going, gosh, he's really going around everywhere. And I really was. I felt like a lost puppy when I was doing this painting. I was trying something new and it didn't quite work out. But the nice thing is I did a time lapse of it. And when I do a time lapse, I try to learn from my mistakes. So what thing would I do differently with this painting if I were to do it all over again? And I know exactly what I would do. I wouldn't jump in with such a light value in the light side of the shapes, and I wouldn't go so dark in the shadow shapes. I would find a more medium ground with my lights and my darks so that I have some values to be able to play with. Not only values, but also colors. I can push them in different directions. I felt like I started off too light in the lights, and I had to paint in some of those middle tones. Instead of building up the middle tones to a lighter value, I just started it off wrong, which is okay. These are good learning experiences, right? Is this the best painting I've ever done in my entire life? No, it's definitely not. But it is a good study, and I feel like in terms of studying, I learned a lot by working on this painting. You can see here I added some blue because it felt a little bit too monochromatic for my taste. And I also thought the brush marks were really dull and boring. So I added a little bit more texture by adding more paint and kind of like tapping the paintbrush onto the skin tone so it makes more of an abstract shape, but doesn't take away from the turning of the form. Be careful with texture. If you add too much texture, it's going to distract from the whole entire painting and the shapes will no longer look very good. I hope you enjoyed these tips and come to the open drawing session. It's really fun. Or you could just come and paint and sculpt with us. Either way, I'm open to it. Hope to see you around. Keep painting.